Today I want to talk about Survive knives. I want to use as an example of Survive knives what many consider to be the pinnacle of Survive knives. That is the 5.1 GSO 5.1 in MagnaCut. Now, you do not have to be a knife nerd to enjoy this video. This video is about so much more than just knives. It is a story about American manufacturing, huge dreams, incompetence, deceit. It is a tale that is almost unbelievable. So if you're interested in knowing about Survive knives as a whole, if you don't already, stick around. We will talk about Survive knives. We'll talk about this 5.1, and we will wrap this whole fiasco up. Really quick, I hope you enjoy this content. If you do, you can do the whole thumbs up, share, subscribe type thing that is normal. If you want to help support this channel, I've got links in the description box below. Primarily, my knife brand, Exodus Knife and Tool. I believe that we manufacture the finest valued knives in the world. Manufactured by White River Knife and Tool up in Fremont, Michigan, with no questions asked lifetime warranty on standard options. Also, for the month of January, I do have a pre-order hoodie. I am super excited about this, and I'm going to try and do a custom run of pre-order apparel every single month. Also, you can check out Beach and Tactical. I designed a rifle sling while serving in Afghanistan. I hand make every sling made out of mil-spec, very compliant materials in a wide variety of colors and camouflage patterns, so you can check that out. And I've got other things in the description box below, such as affiliate links and a Patreon as well if you guys want to help. Regardless, let's get you right back to the content, and thank you for watching. So to give a little bit of backstory, hopefully relatively quick, I have been following Survive knives since it began. I was immediately, like many people were, intrigued by the level of fit and finish and the practical designs that were being offered in a production knife. When Survive knives and Guy really started out, he was offering something that I think was lacking in the market. I think that he was above, in front of the curve when it came to production American knives. The problem was, and the reason that I never reviewed these knives on my channel until recently, was generally speaking, either you placed a pre-order and waited a unknown to infinite amount of time to get your knife, or you bought a second, and they were maybe somewhat spendy as compared to our General Beckers and Essees, which I was more into at the time. However, when you compared them to other comparable knives in fit, finish, and steel, they were oddly priced very well. Partially, and Gary Creeley has mentioned publicly before that he believes that may be part of the problem, that the Survive knives business model relied on pre-orders. And it relied on pre-orders that just did not have enough profit margin to give them any amount of wiggle room if something went wrong. That means that when something did go wrong, and many things did in fact go wrong, Guy had pre-ordered and paid for knives that he couldn't afford to make. Now fast forward to the year 2023, maybe 2024, and I was in a Survive Knives group on Facebook. I, at that point, was well versed in knives and what makes a good knife. I already owned my own brand, Exodus Knife and Tool, and I had a large user collection of cheap to expensive knives of every type of edge geometry, handle geometry, make, and material. And finally on the group, I was curious. In 2023, with companies like White River Knife and Tool and Chris Reeve, or even Lion Steel and Fox Knives, even some of these Italian knives that were putting out fantastic knives, what is it that makes a Survive so doggone special to you guys? And one of the comments that bothered me at the time was a guy saying, you know, you would just have to use one to understand. Now, being a channel reviewer, I review things because I like to answer questions like that, and I like to help people learn questions like that. I found that Survive knives, for the first time that I had ever seen, were in stock and available. I purchased mine from Arizona Custom Knives at a great price, the EDC4. That purchase was made through payments through my patrons, so my patrons really made this one popular. Thank you so much, guys, for helping me to continue to answer these questions and to review products. I purchased a Survive knife, and I had no idea how much the entire Survive experience would suck. Now, I've already talked for too long about probably Survive knives in this experience, but I gotta set the groundwork. I do intend to culminate this video in my experience with this 5.1, but I got the EDC4. The edge geometry was incredibly thin, not perfectly suited for my uses, but it was incredibly nicely made. The handles were very nice. Since it wasn't perfectly suited for my uses, I traded it to my buddy Kevin for a GSO 3.5. I really liked that knife, and I used both of those knives quite a bit, and I've used this GSO 5.1, and seeing the Survive pricing and knowing the history of Survive pricing and seeing knives in stock, I saw that something I believed had changed at Survive Knives, because selling knives that actually existed was not something that Survive Knives did. This made me very optimistic to see their knives in stock. And I am not speaking as a single knife reviewer viewing things only from my own lens. All of my friends are knife nerds. I knew tons of people that had Survive knives, and I knew tons of people that had Survive knives and talked to them, and this seemed to be a potential turning point in the business. Not long after that, a friend of mine and a customer, by the way, and a great customer and a great guy, John over at Heavyset Tactical, purchased a large portion of Survive knives, and I was talking to him throughout the whole thing, and he was incredibly optimistic at the front end of owning a portion of Survive knives. This is where things got hairy, because as I was making videos about this experience, I was basing it on changes that I had seen in the business and on the first-hand testimony from inside the factory from my friend and now partial owner of Survive knives, and that is when things started getting a little bit dark. You see, first and foremost, one thing that was always apparent was that Guy, the owner of Survive Knives, might be kind of a hard guy to work with. His expectations for tolerances and for knives were extremely high. He claimed to have made his mental illness and OCD, his mental weakness, into his business strength. Working with Guy, John faced a lot of challenges, and things got darker and darker, and I started having more poor contact with John as John started to realize that this company that he had invested so heavily in and was working so heavily for was not what they told him it was. There were some well-hidden secrets. John was working with his father, John was working with a lawyer, and John was realizing that the problems at Survive were much deeper than he had known. This, I think, and I'm speaking from myself looking at John from the outside, I think that this weighed incredibly heavy on John. I think that this was very bad for his mental health. My communication with John started becoming more spotty, and all of the benefits that I saw, all the good things I saw from Survive, all the excitement that I saw from John, all the excitement that I saw myself after a 10-year period of seeing Survive do something for the first time ever, it all faded away. It all went away. And a lot of this channel and my time got drowned being pulled between Survive Knife psychopaths who absolutely loved Survive, some of them for good reason, some of them were fake accounts being ran by Guy himself, I'm sure, and between a frothing at the mouth psychotic horde of people who hated Survive Knives. Now, some of these people that hated Survive Knives had absolutely good reason to. They paid for knives that they didn't get. And Guy was selling knives that were paid for. I spoke to Guy on the phone the day before he released his second to last video, where he said he wasn't just selling knives that were paid for. And he said and explained to me that he was, in fact, selling knives that were paid for in cash to Edgeworks and other companies under the table, because he had a responsibility first to his investors and debt collectors and then to the customers. And then he turned around and said the opposite thing the very next day in his video. I have not released those recordings, and I do not intend to, because I don't think it's worth it at this point. The point of this video is to bring together the initial question that brought all of this testing to the forefront of this channel for a time, and that was, do you in fact have to try one to understand? And the answer is no. In the testing of this 5.1, and it wasn't significant testing. I actually intended to hold on to this knife as a keepsake, and maybe someday, if people came back and there became this crazy drive for Survive Knives with silly prices someday, maybe I would sell it. But really, I was going to keep it as a token and a memento of the absolute pain in the butt that the experience with Survive Knives was to me. Now I'm just getting rid of it. But no, the knife is nice. Anybody who tells you that the knife isn't nice is a liar. Okay? The designs are great. The attention to detail is great. The edge geometry is acceptable. Overall, the knives are fantastic, and if this knife had been released at the beginning of Survive Knives, and if the company had been managed by someone who was good at management, Survive Knives would be a brand that we were all very familiar with at this point. In batoning with this knife, it was good. In doing my feather sticks, it was good. In every task that I've done with this knife, it was good. The Kydex is good. But the year is 2025. It's not 2009. It's not 2012 anymore. This knife is not entirely unique. There are more affordable options at this point on the market. There are larger companies at this point doing absolutely amazing work, because guys saw a vacuum in the market. That's what good entrepreneurs and businessmen do. He saw the vacuum in the market for a nicer production knife. But he was a little bit ahead of the curve, and he was not a good manager, and he was a liar. I do think actually Guy has some mental conditions, and part of what happened to Guy is a tragedy. But at the end of the day, when you've stole over $1 million for people, your personal tragedy it loses its mini violin. Okay, Guy lost everything. Guy had to give away his dog. Guy is living with no bank account, no driver's license, no car, living with friends on their couch, and working at a restaurant serving tables with not a doggone thing to his name, going through the process of bankruptcy. But when you steal from so many people, that's the way it should be. the knives are good. They're not great. If you're watching this in 2025 or beyond, the company no longer exists, okay? Will there ever be a reason that you have to find a no longer produced Survive knife and purchase one, because it will be the life-changing blade that is not, you cannot find anywhere else on the market? No. Anybody who said that you have to try one to understand and it's unlike anything else was personally invested in the brand and was not looking at things objectively. And for the most part, most of these people are not even knife users. They are knife fantasy enjoyers. There will never be a reason where a person will have to pay double, triple, quadruple what one of these knives should be worth. And if you look at one of these knives for sale down the road, if you look at purchasing it for any reason other than rarity, you will not be spending your money prudently. You will be purchasing a nice knife that I would say is very nicely made, with no factory support, no warranty, no recourse if anything goes wrong, in a market where this level of fit, finish, and quality and usability is available affordably from other manufacturers with lifetime guarantees. Again, Architect Knives, White River Knife and Tool, Lion Steel. There are so many companies now that are elevating fit, finish, and materials being offered at fantastic prices. Even Essie knives, and I'm not saying even Essie knives as if I'm speaking down to them. They generally have a lower price point, and that's okay. And at their price point, I love Essie knives. But even Essie knives offering models with thinner edge geometry, fantastic fit and finish in steels like A2, Magna Cut, S35 VN, even companies like Essie Knives and Becker in 2025 are coming up to the quality standards and fit and finish of a Survive knife. These companies actually make money. These companies actually can afford to honor their warranties, and chances are these companies will continue to exist far into the future. I would not even say, in my opinion, that this knife is perfect or that I would prefer it over some other knives. For me, I think the handle is a little bit too long, a little bit too big. I think the choil is massively too large. And overall, the size of the knife and the weight of the knife in this package is not optimal. It is too large of a knife on your belt to justify the actual capabilities of the blade. So, that is it. I do regret a lot of my Survive Knives content. I do regret my optimism, although I can still see what that optimism was based on today. However, I would not take any of it back, and I would do it all over again, because the Survive Knives fiasco brought to my attention a lot of dirt bags in the industry. I had been talking up blade forums for a long time, contrary to a lot of my viewers, subscribers, and fans who are telling me it's an absolute cesspit. Through this fiasco, I learned firsthand that the problems with blade forums go to the top. The reason that you can go onto Reddit or anywhere else and see that these people are D-bags is because they are in fact D-bags, and the guy at the top banned from Blade Show for being an absolute skeezer. I learned a lot about people. I think I probably learned a lot about myself and about the fans of certain brands, and these lessons I think will be valuable going forward. So a lot of what happened was regrettable in how it happened. I might do it a little bit differently, but I'd do it all over again. I have no more sentimental attachment to this blade. I'm saying goodbye to it. and that will be the last chapter for Survive Knives for me. There are other people who purchased Survive Knives tooling and equipment who I've talked about in past videos who had no intention to make knives, but apparently now do. If they can make really, really good knives using Survive's designs, more power to them. I wish them success. But they will not have the industry-leading, top-of-the-world, finest designs that have ever been manufactured knives that they might have been led to think that they would have. Survive Knives at this point in time is a oversold and outdated idea that just couldn't work. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I hope that you have a blessed day. I try to talk to everybody down there in the comment section. For every comment that I get in the comment section, some geriatric neckbeard on Blade Forums will crap their pants and a nurse will have to come clean it for them. So if you are one of the many people who is telling me about the absolute toxic poison atmosphere on Blade Forums, go ahead and let me know how you feel down there. I will still say that I think that there are certain sections of Blade Forums, like the Bussy Forum, that at this point in time, with their own internal moderation, are better than other sections. But as a whole, guys, you don't have to pay them to be a member. Let me tell you what you get when you pay to be a member. You can send messages, you can buy stuff, and they open up their porn sections of the forum because they're freaking dirtbags. That's what's cool to them. The crap. Freaking weirdos, man. There's information on Blade Forums, and the only reason that Blade Forums still exists is because good people posted on Blade Forums, but guess what? Most of those good people that posted all of that information have been banned from Blade Forums because they actually knew what they were talking about, and they ended up pissing off the neckbeards, and now the neckbeards are still just trying to make a couple bucks a month off of those people who have been banned. You don't have to pay to get access to any of that information. Blade Forums goes down all of the time. Already, Blade Forums posts are being copied to other forums, and when Blade Forums dies, nobody will care. Talk to you later.